prior to 9/11, you were in jail with a few guys that were terrorists.
Right.
One of them, this guy Yousef, who was involved in the 93 bombing in Manhattan, the World Trade Center. They had information that showed that he was planning to create a bomb in an airplane.
Yeah.
You believe he was definitely one of the architects of 9/11.
He was the mastermind. And he goes on telling me that he could teach me how to make bombs. He says, I'll teach you how you could smuggle the bomb or build the bomb on the airplane. He says, you know what jet fuel will do? That World Trade Center? He said, it's going down. He says, I have 4 terrorists here right now in the city.
So he was making the calls and the FBI were on the line.
Right,
and he was
exactly.
talking to terrorists and his family.
Exactly. All of a sudden, FBI comes raiding the fucking 9 South. Pulled me out. They went crazy. They said, listen, what's going on? I said, what do you mean, what's going on? He says, something big is going down. What is it? I'm trying to get a hold of the FBI. Nothing. He says, I'm going to be getting released early September 2001. Gave me the fucking date. I tell my lawyer, I said, listen, you know right now what he said. He said it's going down.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is very good, very blessed on this end, my friends. And as always, I give all the praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving to our God for that. This is going to be a very disturbing podcast. I have a very special guest today that I'll be interviewing and talking to. And it's going to be very disturbing. You know, I believe we all know, everybody watching this podcast realizes that there is a level of government corruption. We've seen it over the past several years, right, left, government corruption, period. But today I'm going to tell you something that's extremely disturbing. And I've been sitting on this for quite a while because I wanted to be sure. I wanted to talk to different people. I wanted to be sure. I always suspected this. But I'm not one of these conspiracy theorists. I'm not going to be bad-mouthing people to get views. I'm not going to do any of that. When I say something, my credibility means something to me. I can make mistakes, but I'm not going to intentionally mislead. Just not going to do it. And I believe the information I have today is grounded not only in witness testimony, but in documentation. And I mean documentation from the government and from others. What if I were to tell you that I believe, and I can back it up, that it's very possible that the 9/11 attack on the World Trade Center could have been stopped, could have been prevented. But because of government corruption, it wasn't. Now, I can get in trouble saying things like this if I can't back it up, but I'm ready to do that. And I want this to go higher. I really do. I hope people are watching this and say, you know what? Enough is enough. We need to investigate. We need to find out, even if heads don't fall, we can never have anything like this happen again. And it's tied into the mob again. And it is because of 2 very corrupt government officials. One of them, I've mentioned him before, the most corrupt prosecutor that I know of, and I knew of some. He takes the cake. And that's Andrew Weissman. The second one was an FBI agent. His name was DeVecchio, another bad guy. There was a third person involved in this, mobster, you know his name, Scarpa Jr., who was working with DeVecchio, the FBI agent, for many, many, many years. He was an informant for the way we understood the information we got for over 20 years, maybe closer to 30. But what happened here during the third Columbo family war, when the Persico faction was up against the Arena faction, there was a big war, 91 to 94. Scarpa was getting information from DeVecchio, giving him names of people so Greg can go and kill them. The FBI agent was supplying their informant, Scarpa, with names of people and locations so that he can go and murder them. And this was during the war. This is a fact, not making this up. This was a fact. It all came out. And I can support it, and I will. But here's what's even worse. My friends, my 75th birthday is coming up the end of May, 3/4 of a century. Well, I made you all a promise. We're going to do something very special. An evening you don't want to miss. Click the link in the description, go to celebrate.michaelfranzese.com, or scan the QR code right now and reserve your spot. Now let's get back to the video. Scarpa Jr., who you're going to hear from today, while he was in the Metropolitan Corrections Center in New York, the federal jail, he was with known terrorists, the terrorists that were instrumental in planning terrorist attacks, one of them being the 1993 attack on the World Trade Center. The guy was convicted of it, and some of his co-defendants or accomplices. He was in contact with them, getting information from them about other attacks that they were planning. One of them we believe to be 9/11. And I'm going to support this. I'm not just saying, I'm going to support it. Greg, I believe, was a hero. He reported this to the FBI because he might have been a mobster, but he was still a patriot. We didn't want our country to be attacked. Many guys in the mob fought in the war. My dad's right-hand guy, Joey Brancato, lost a leg in the war. Many guys fought in the war. So we might have been gangsters and mobsters, but we were also patriots. We didn't want to see our country go down. So Greg Scarpa Jr. had extensive conversations, very meaningful conversations with these terrorists, reported it to the FBI, and the FBI actually had an investigation. I'm going to let Greg explain this to you, but let me tell you who he was in contact with during this time. Ramzi Yousef. His real name was Abdul Basit Mahmoud Abdul Karim. He was a Pakistani terrorist. He was convicted of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, where 6 people were killed and 1,000 more were injured. And his goal was to topple the tower at that time. It didn't come down, but 6 people died, 1,000 injured, millions of dollars worth of damage. He was convicted of that. He got life plus 240 years, and Greg Scarpa Jr. was in very close contact. He got in their confidence because he was trying to save America. He's a hero in my view. I don't care what he did on the street. He was a hero. Yousef was also part of the 1994 bombing of Philippine Airlines. He had already been bombed one airline. He also was involved in the Beijing plot to blow up 11 to 12 U.S. airlines over the Pacific Ocean in one day. This was his thing, airlines. He was the nephew of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who was the principal architect of the 9/11 bombing of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. You know the story. Greg Scarpa Jr. was working for the FBI to bring these terrorists and prevent whatever it is they were going to do. And he got really involved with them. But I want to tell you what happened. Because of the fact that Greg Scarpa Jr. could have shed light, a lot of light, on his father's involvement with the corrupt agent, Lynn DeVecchio, who was the case agent for this Wiseman, Andrew Weissman. They're working together. They lied and plotted against many mob guys whose convictions were overturned after this information came out about Lynn DeVecchio because he perjured himself at several trials, one of them being my very dear friend, Michael Sessa, who's done 34 years in prison because of perjured testimony and the subordinate of perjury by Andrew Weissman by this agent DeVecchio. So here's what happened. Because they wanted to protect that deal with the devil that Wiseman and DeVecchio put together and all the conviction that they had of mobsters, they actually closed down the investigation against the terrorists. And you know what Greg Scarpa Jr. got? To keep him quiet, they sent him to the Supermax in Florence, Colorado, and kept him in solitary confinement for over 12 years. They really hurt this kid. He was a kid at the time. He was made the same night that I was made. That's how far we go back. We both were made on October 31st, 1975, 50 years ago, this past October. That's the thanks he got. So what I'm telling you is that in order to protect a corrupt agent and the cases in which he testified in that resulted in convictions of mobsters, Andrew Weissman, this lowlife, suborned perjury, and was instrumental in closing down an investigation against terrorists so they wouldn't overturn convictions of mobsters that they got illegally. Now, I'm making some pretty bold statements here. I want you to listen to what Greg Scarpa Jr. has to say. I'm ready to back this up. You can take me anywhere. I'll bring other witnesses forward who have investigated this thoroughly. That's how corrupt the FBI was back then. This was in the late 90s, just before 9/11 happened in 2001. Could have been prevented, in my view, and I'm giving you the evidence. You listen to Greg Scarpa Jr., and by the way, he's credible. He's absolutely credible. We have 302s. We have FBI documentation. They could have met with the terrorists outside and possibly locked these people up and stopped this whole bombing of the World Trade Center. But they didn't do it because they wanted to protect the cases of the mobsters that they illegally convicted. Many of them were overturned afterwards. That's corruption. Andrew Weissman at the center of it, the same Andrew Weissman, the bulldog, the pit bull, that they brought into the Mueller investigation to go after our president at the time, Donald Trump. And listen, When you go after your president of the United States and you do it the way they did it, you're hurting the American people. So forget the Trump thing. You're hurting the American people. But this is who they brought in. The same guy who tried to frame people at Enron, the same guy who tried to destroy the accounting firm, Arthur Andersen, the same guy that the Supreme Court overturned the convictions 9-0. This is Andrew Weissman. Was he ever held accountable? No. He was given a reward. He was given the Mueller case to go after our president at the time. This is despicable, people, and it's real, and I can back it up. Now, I want you to listen to Greg Scarpa Jr. This guy's done 32 years in prison. 32 years. You don't complain. He's a friend. And in my view, he would have been a hero. He would have been a hero because he single-handedly got into the confidence of these terrorists. I want you to hear his story. Never told it before in this way. And he's a friend, and he's a patriot, forgetting anything else. So with no further delay, my very dear friend, Greg Scarpa Jr. So, Greg, when was the last time I saw you? Maybe 40, 45 years ago?
Yeah, in the 40s.
In the 40s?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's get something straight right from the beginning.
Okay.
Ever since I started talking, I've been telling people that we got straightened out in 1975, Halloween night, 50 years ago. That I know for a fact. It was the year I got married, right? First time. But I was saying everybody was dead. There was 6 of us that walked in the room. As far as I know, I'm the only one alive.
Right, right.
Honestly, I didn't remember everybody that was there.
Same with
There was
me.
so much stuff.
Yeah.
But you and I got straightened out together.
Same time.
So-
Halloween night.
So I'm happy to announce that there's 2 of us alive instead of just the one.
There you go.
Great.
There you go.
So it's great to see you again. We haven't spoken or seen each other since
Since 40 something
19,
years.
yeah, 1980, somewhere around there.
Yeah. We used to meet down Carroll Street over there.
Right.
Go see Scarpa over there.
The social club did, and we go to Monty's, and
Right.
yeah, the whole bit.
Yeah.
And then our life took different directions, obviously, and I ended up here, and, thank God you're here now, too.
Yes.
But I want to lay this out for everybody because you got an incredible story
Okay.
that we checked out that we know is 100% true. I want to let everybody know everything that you're saying here today is a fact.
Yeah.
And people are not going to get it because it's just so, how do people in power do something like this?
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've been telling people, Greg, for a long time, the real mafia is in government.
Right.
The stuff that they do
Yeah.
that we can't believe that they get away with is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we weren't saints or angels on the street. Nobody ever said that. But what they did to us was just, it was terrible.
Amazing. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let me start with this. Everybody knows at this point in time, to every way, that your dad, Greg Scarpa Sr.,
Yeah.
major government informant for a long time.
Right.
We didn't know this for quite some time.
Right.
What happened later on was even worse because he got involved with a very corrupt FBI agent, Lynn DeVecchio.
Yeah. Well, actually, they were friends.
They were.
Yeah. They were just regular friends. Okay. And that's what it was. A lot of people they say, my father had a license to kill and all that kind of stuff. First of all, no, he didn't have a license to kill because that's one thing the government don't do. Okay. They in the United States, in this country, you don't have a license to kill. Okay. They're not going to let you kill. Okay, so it was DeVecchio and my father. So whatever was done was over there, and DeVecchio would do whatever he had to do to hide it. Do it, who knows what he did, how he did it. You know what I mean?
So in other words, you don't believe DeVecchio was involved with your dad in any alleged killings that they claimed that went down?
Well, yeah, he was. Well, he gave information, to him. And yeah, without a doubt, he gave information of different guys that he felt. Well, let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
One of them, and this is how the heat really got on DeVecchio. They started figuring out that there's something wrong here. Okay, what happened was, I was going on the lam because he got word from DeVecchio that indictment is coming down. Okay. And my father says, DeVecchio and him put it together that I should take off, okay? What he did, he told my father, he says, listen, he says, you've got a weak link, okay? And this guy, he mentioned his name, Cosmo Catanzano. He says, it's the weak link, okay? So he says, I think you should do what you got to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So with that, my father tells me, he says, Greg, Cosmo, now he was with me, this kid. He says, Greg, he says, Cosmo, got to kill him. I said, what do you mean, got to kill him? He's a good kid, this kid. So he says, Greg, he says, my guy, it's bad. He's bad. He's going to go bad. Got to kill him. I said, no. He's not bad. This kid is not going to go bad. I'm telling you, he's a good kid, this kid. All right? He says, Greg, listen to me. You got to. I said, I'm not killing him. Okay? So I'm going on the lam. Okay? So I left. Meanwhile, my father set it all up. They buried a hole. Okay? And they were going to put him in it. They were sending for the next day. They were going to meet him. But before that day came, they all got pinched. So he got saved, the kid. And he never flipped. So.
And DeVecchio gave your dad that information.
Yes, well, yeah, and what happened was, DeVecchio gave him that information, and now what happened was when everything started coming out, Valerie Caproni, she was a prosecutor, and she knows the only person that was in the room when she said he's a weak link was her and DeVecchio. So she knew right there that DeVecchio gave that information. Okay, so where she was on his side now, she was now getting the OPR involved. Was that officers, professional?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Responsibility. Yeah.
Right. And, they were calling me, but they just, they squashed it all.
Well, let me ask you this. If DeVecchio gave your dad that information that this kid was going to flip,
Right.
and he never flipped,
Right.
what was behind DeVecchio giving him that information if it wasn't true?
Well, he got the information from Valerie Caproni that he's the weak link. We're going to go after him to turn him.
I got it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what, he exaggerated the fact that, he's definitely going bad. No, he was just a weak link. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But DeVecchio and my father both said to be safe. You know what I mean? So.
And actually, DeVecchio knew what was going to happen once he told your father
Of course.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Let me ask, didn't they charge DeVecchio with 4 murders later on?
Yeah, they charged him with 4 murders, and I forgot the 4 names that
I don't remember the name.
Yeah. But he got charged with 4 murders, and that information came from with Linda Shiro. Heard, overheard through all that stuff, and they more or less supposedly they were talking about it, and they got killed.
Yeah.
And they felt that he had something to do with it because they were discussing it.
And eventually they covered it up in some way. He was supposed to go to trial. He didn't go to trial, but
Right.
it was definitely implicated. The FBI implicated him in 4 murders.
Right.
DeVecchio.
Well, he did go to trial.
He did.
The
And
state.
he went in the state, but never with the feds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was that OPR investigation.
Right.
We all went, but they just swept it under the rug.
I wanted to set that up so they just know what you went through a little bit with your father and this DeVecchio. But I want to get to really the heart of this matter, Greg, and the fact that you were in jail, MCC New York, and then later on Supermax over in Colorado,
Right.
with a few guys that were terrorists.
Right.
One of them, this guy Yousef, who was involved in the '93 bombing
Right.
in Manhattan, the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
And you started to get very close with them.
Right.
Tell me what happened.
Well, what happened there was he was locked downstairs in MCC for like about 18 months in a room. They didn't even let him out. But there was other terrorists that was on the floor with me, and they were saying, Yousef is be getting out soon. You got to talk with this guy. He's, he'll tell you things. The guy's a genius. He could read the whatever, I don't know if they call it the Bible, whatever they call
Quran.
it. Okay, Quran.
Quran.
That's it. And he'll tell you what page. He'll read something, put it away, and he'll tell you what page it was on and what it says. The guy's really, really something. I said, oh, yeah. And I'm listening. He says he's got a lot of ideas. And, if you're against the government, I says, I'm over here. Of course I'm against the government. I started thinking, I said, well, I got a shot over here to make amends,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying, for everything that's going on, So eventually he ends up coming up to the floor. And, we waved, introduced. I used to go out on the range for a little walk. That's all they let me do.
Right.
All right. And with that, they went on a hunger strike. Okay. And so what I did, try and get a little closer to them, you know what I mean? I told them, I says, when you go for the shower, you're going to find food in there. And so I would drop food into the shower. I would take the shower first, put food in there for them, because they didn't want nobody to know that they were eating.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. Now, before you know it, we were next to each other, and MCC,
Yeah.
cracks on the wall, holes in the wall, and everything like that. And we started talking, getting to know each other real good,
And I want to make this clear. Your interest in speaking with him was obviously not to be involved in any terrorist plot. But
Right.
You thought this was a way, because you're a patriot. A
To
lot
make
of-
amends, yes. Yeah.
How many of our guys fought in World War II? And,
Right.
we may have been doing what we did on the street, but we still loved our country.
Patriots, yeah.
We didn't like the government, but we
Right.
loved our country.
Of course.
All right. So you felt there was something that maybe you can do to make amends and to be
Right.
helpful to the country.
Exactly. Because the terrorist before him, his name was Ishmael. He was a young kid.
Yeah.
And he told me, what they're into, they're going to hurt this one. And Yousef has been thinking about a mistrial and stuff like that. And we're going to do something, wait until he comes up. So anyway, I started talking.
And they befriended you because they figured you didn't like the government because of who you were and what we were involved in. So they kind of felt comfortable talking.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And, I would tell them that it's fucking government, this, that, and everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, he ends up coming up, and we're talking through the cracks in the wall, the little holes they had there, and he goes on telling me that he could teach me a lot of stuff. Okay, he could teach me how to make bombs, because I told him what I ended up telling him was that the mafia, okay, has also a wing that goes against the government. Okay, that if we could hurt the government, we'll do that too. Okay,
Right.
so he says, well, that's what I like to hear. I mean, he's a real smart guy. He had that British accent. And he said, well, that's what I like to hear. He said, well, I could tell you right now. He said, do you know how to make the bombs and everything? I says, no, I don't know how to do none of that. He says, well, I could teach you how to make bombs, okay? And not only that, you can make bombs. He says, I'll teach you how you could smuggle the bomb or build the bomb on the airplane, going through the metal detectors, getting it on the airplane, okay? And I said, really? He says, yeah. And he says, I got a lot to teach you, okay? And I said, well, that'll be helpful,
Mm-hmm.
And I got in touch with my lawyer and let him know. He said,
So-
all right, well, I'm going to,
So after you had that conversation, you realized,
yeah, that
and you got in touch with the lawyer.
right. I got in touch with the lawyer. I said, listen, these guys are looking to, teach me this, teach me that. And they got plans on doing things, So he also told me, actually, I have to go back, because he also told me that that he's going to look for a mistrial.
In his case.
In his case, yeah. That they were looking to get a mistrial, okay? And that he's got plans on blowing up an airplane, okay?
So he told you he had definite plans to blow up an airplane.
Right, exactly. And
And what year was this?
that was around 96, 97.
So just to be clear, this was well before 2011.
Yes, yeah.
Before 9/11, I should say. I'm sorry.
Right.
This was well before 9/11.
Right. So then with that, he had these plans. He says that he'd like to, to get a mistrial, and that's one way to get a mistrial for sure. He says, with me here, blowing up an airplane. And so it got to a point that I spoke to my lawyer, okay, and he went in with it, told them. They never got back to him, okay? So with that,
When you say he told him, he told the FBI?
right.
that this was going on. You were having these conversations, and the FBI never got back to your lawyer.
Right. Okay, never got back to him. So with that, and he ended up telling me that, he says, Greg, he says, let your family know, okay? He says, don't fly TWA, okay? And I says, really? He says, yeah, don't fly TWA. And it's not only me. He ended up telling, they had 2 custom agents that were locked up there that got in trouble for stealing, on their job. And he ended up liking one of them and told one of them the same thing, okay? And I ended up telling my lawyer, same thing, no comeback. Nothing, okay? And so I was, getting information, listening to him, different things that he's going to teach me how to do this and do that. He says he's interested in getting passports and stuff like that. Could you handle something like that? I says, yeah, more than likely. I says, I got to just get out to my people and, we'll find out, what we can do.
So he was actually engaging you to help him get
Right.
passports and what he might have needed to do to
Right.
carry out his plan,
Right.
blow up a plane.
Right. So whether it was for that or for something
Something
else,
else.
yeah, maybe future,
Right.
I don't know. So with that, this was going on, and they never got back to me. Okay, but now
What period? How long is this going on?
this is going on about probably about 3 weeks
Okay.
to a month. Okay, they never got back to me. So then what happens is they don't get back to me, and then he tells me that that's one plan of his. He said, but now there's a good shot that we might hurt. And he's told me the name, which was Garcia. He was the prosecutor on their case. He said, we might hurt him, and we might even hurt the federal judge. He says, he's got 4 terrorists here right now in the city. Right now.
They were outside of
They were
jail.
outside of the jail, outside in Manhattan. I says, really? He says, yeah. So once I heard that, I says, damn, that's unbelievable. So I tell my lawyer. Now they came up. I don't want to say nothing, but, now one of them was going to get hurt.
Right.
Now they came up. Okay?
Let me ask you, at this point in time, do you think they had any reason to be leading you on for some reason? Were they testing you?
Well, we got close before that. It didn't just happen on the spur of the moment. Like, what I
Right.
mean? We got close, talking, laughing, and things like that. You know what I mean? So,
So you believe they were on the level?
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And what happens is, once I said that, they called me out. The warden got me downstairs, and they said that the FBI is in the other room. They want to talk to you. So they had told me that, listen, we want to wire the rooms up. Okay. I said, well, if you want my opinion, that's not going to work, because what he does, he's a funny dude, and this will make you laugh, but it worked. He hooked up. Yeah, when we were kids, you have the string with the cups.
Yeah, with the cup. Yeah.
Right, and he whispered, and I'm hearing him.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it on the wire. He says, okay, all right. So they're looking at each other, they're talking. He said, well, let me ask you something. He says, what if we gave you he says, he's sending you this by kites also. In other words, he's writing this down. I said,
Real too.
No, the
Asian one?
terrorist.
Oh, the terrorist was
yeah.
writing it.
He's writing a lot of kites to me, and he's
Right.
sticking it through the hole.
Through the hole in the
Right.
wall or the
Right.
vent. Maybe sometimes we used to talk through the vent in the back.
Right,
Whatever.
right. All right. These are cracks in the wall and holes in the wall that
Right.
you're able to slip through. So he says, how about if you give us the kites? That he said. I said, that won't work either. I says, because he wants the kites back, which he
Right.
used to tell me. He says, are you going to read this? He says, and then you send it back to me. Okay? And then I used to hear him flush it.
Right.
Okay? And then he would flush it. I told him that. And they're talking and talking and talking. He said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get you a spy camera. I says, okay. And is it going to be easy to use? I'm not technology savvy at all. I
Right.
said, you know, he says, is it easy to use spy camera? I never even heard of it.
Right.
So he says, yeah. He says, you just press the button. He says, the proximity just less than a foot away. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
get a picture. I says, okay, that sounds good. All right. And that's what I did. All right. They were getting all kinds of information through these kites. Okay. And he even mentioned the Garcia thing that they want to hurt.
So in other words, you were taking pictures of the kites with the camera,
Right.
and that was being transmitted back to them.
Ex-
Or you gave them the camera and they saw it.
Right. Yeah. I gave them the camera, and they however they take the film out, whatever they do, I don't know.
And what was on these kites? What did he
Well,
say?
he mentioned that he's going to hurt this Garcia. All right, it's we're working on it. I'm in touch with the 4 guys outside. Okay, and with that, it's all worked out that that's what he's going to do. All right.
Did he say anything on the kites about bombing an airplane or anything like that?
He mentioned that you know, we got that on hold. He says because I think it'll work better if I hurt one of these. The judge Duffy, I think his name was.
So I want to be clear for a
Yeah.
reason. So prior to 9/11, they had information from a terrorist, Yousef, the guy that bombed in '93 the World Trade Center.
Right.
They had Kite's information that showed that he was planning to create a bomb in an airplane.
Yeah.
And they had actual photographs of his own writing on it.
Well, yeah. Not that he was going to create he had talked about blowing up the plane.
Right.
That was, you know, out loud.
Right.
You know, through the thing. But then he changed that. Okay, which he wrote on Kites that we're going to go with this Garcia hurting him. He said he made a face at me. He was like a kid, like he's staring at me in the courtroom. He said that's who I'm going to hurt.
So he's going to kill the prosecutor that prosecuted him in the case.
That's doing it.
Was doing
that's
it, right.
prosecuting. Right. So with that, I told him, I showed him, you know, whatever I had. Any notes that he said, I'd write down the notes. Right. And, you know, the funny thing about it is that they had a paralegal come up and see me every week. I would give the notes to and stuff like that.
So the FBI created a paralegal to come up and see you.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, because we had a meeting about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what happened was we had this meeting, all right? And during the meeting, there's people from Washington. There's a big, long table with everybody.
Was this in MCC or did they bring you out?
No, they brought me
They
out.
brought you out.
Okay? And I'm sitting there, and I'm seeing all these people, all right? I said, wow. And then, you know, not for nothing, there was this one beautiful, beautiful girl on the other side. I said, wow, look at this one. You know, I don't know who she is. You know? So anyway, they introduced me to everybody, and who's from Washington, this, that. Now, this one here, he said, we're not going to give you her name, okay? She's going to use an alias as Susan Schwartz. I said, okay. She's going to be your paralegal, okay? She's going to come up and see you. And I'm saying, oh, man, nice, okay? So with that, she comes up every week.
And she was an agent, probably.
She was
an agent.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and she would come up every week, okay? And I would give her the notes that I accumulated and everything, and we'd talk about everything that wasn't on notes. I mean, and with that, they were learning a lot, and now is when the plan was to hurt this Garcia. Okay, that's when that more or less came out. It was after she started coming up. Okay.
And this whole case at that time was in the Eastern District, New York, right? Or this is the Southern District.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that, she's getting the information that she is about this Garcia and everything, and they're getting ready for this. They got to protect this guy. Okay. But see, this guy, he's no dummy. This Yousef. Okay, no dummy at all. He's this guy, and the ones that are doing this.
Right.
Okay, so what happens is they're ready for it. I don't know what's going on. Just what I'm telling them and everything like that. I says, "What's going on, Yousef, with this Garcia? Trying to get him more information." He said, "No, we got to cancel it." I says, "What do you mean? What happened?" He says, "They got, for some reason, they got sharpshooters all over the roof and everything. He says he's being protected, probably from me, because of my trial. He said, but they're protecting this guy like he's the president. He says, so, we're calling her off.
Do you think he suspected at the time that maybe you were passing information?
No.
You didn't suspect it?
No, he didn't. Yeah. He was like, he told me, and this is it, He says, no, we're just going to cancel it. He says, because he figured that it's because of him that,
Yeah.
They kept him 18 months or something in a room. He wasn't even allowed to have toilet paper in his room. Nothing in his room at all, because that's how he can make bombs out of anything.
Right.
Not saying he could do it out of toilet paper, but that's how far they
Right.
went.
Right.
And with that, then not too long after that, if you remember, Flight 800 went down.
Yeah.
800 TWA
Yes.
went down, okay? And, on the wreck, I got out of the room. I went to his door after it happened, and I looked at him, and he got like startled. He says, like,
Don't talk.
right, don't say nothing. He gave the motion to walk away, all that. And that was that, as far as that goes. So then they did that investigation, and whatever they came up with, that there was nothing there. And, we heard that there was residue that they did find, but then they said it was the dogs, sniffing dogs that they, So who knows, really? That's just, you got to just guess, maybe yes or no.
So do you think when he waved you off like that is because he didn't want to talk about that bombing at all?
Right.
What happened with TWA?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did that kind of indicate to you, and of course you might, just your assumption, did that indicate to you that he had something to do with
Yeah,
it?
the way I looked at it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they, like I said, they knocked it down after the investigation. It was a long investigation. They
Right.
took every piece of metal and everything else, and they put the plane back together.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. And it continued that way. Okay, and it got to a point that they moved him now. They moved him away from me. Okay, they moved him to they opened up another part of 9 South upstairs,
Mm-hmm.
and. So I didn't see him no more, and my lawyer came and told me, he says, Greg, they're ending the investigation with this guy. I said, really? He says, yeah. He says, don't make any sense to me, and I'm really aggravated about it, They says that they think that the guy's bullshitting you. I says, bullshitting me. Okay. He says, and we'll see what happens, So now, the only time I saw him, and, because I was there so long in MCC, I would go up to visits up there where he is, to see my
Right.
family, okay? So I'm up over there. I would go to, the cops didn't say nothing up there to COs because they knew
Right.
I was there for long. I would go to his door and talk to him, how you doing and stuff. He says, yeah. He says, they want to, just make it as hard as they can for me, but they can't hurt me, you know what I mean? And, this kind of talk, he says, and I'm going to tell you something. He says, that World Trade Center, he said, it's going down, And, I did skip something, okay? When I was getting this information, he ended up saying, about making bombs and stuff like that. They worry about the terrorists making bombs. They supplied the big major bomb. I said, oh, yeah. I said, how do you figure? He says, jet fuel. Jet fuel. He says, you know what jet fuel will do? I said, really? So he says, yeah, they do it. So with that and everything, he ends up now, skip a ways, and he ends up saying, that this World Trade Center is going down. So, but I'm thinking, maybe he's bullshitting me. I don't know. This is what they told me. You know what I mean? So I says, really? He said, oh, yeah, it's going down. So I said, all right. I miss a lot sometimes.
All right.
While we were together over there, I did something really, really good for him, okay? that was important to him. And the FBI says, Greg, if you could do this, he says, we got you big time, okay? Because I told him what he wanted. He wanted to speak to his people overseas. Sheikh Mohammed, it's his uncle. They made him the mastermind of it, okay? So he wanted to speak with his people out there, okay? So I told them about it. He said, okay, that's beautiful. He says, tell them you could do it. Tell them that you could hook them up with your mob friends outside, okay?
So when you say you're telling this to the FBI
Right.
right now,
Right. And they told me, now you tell him that you could hook him up to those people overseas, okay? He says, and you tell him it's your mob people that he's going to get on the phone with us and we're going to act like we're your people,
right?
okay? We're going to patch him through to where he wants to go, okay? And to him, it'll be your people doing him a favor,
Right.
okay?
But in reality, it was the FBI that was going to be talking.
Right. And that's sure enough, he get out, call. He thinks he's talking to my people. He's talking to the FBI. Okay. And they were, he says he'd come back, Yousef, and say, he says, your people, he says, they talk with that heavy accent, and all that, So they're
I want to be clear on that. So he made the call,
yeah, more than one.
and who did he think he was talking to?
Well, he spoke to a lot of people,
Right.
a lot of terrorists out there, and his family.
So he actually had the call with the terrorists
Yeah.
and his family.
Yeah.
And it was your guys that were also on the line, or the FBI was also on the line making the connection, and they were listening.
Listening to everything.
So he was making the calls, and the FBI were on the line,
Right,
and he was
exactly.
talking to terrorists and his family.
Exactly. Okay. So now with that, what happens now, after maybe 3 weeks of doing this?
Yeah.
Okay. All of a sudden, the FBI comes raiding the fucking 9 South. Get out of the cell. They pulled me out. They went crazy. They went in all the room, his room. They turned everything upside down. Come with us, and they grabbed me. And I said, what's going on? They said, listen, what's going on? I said, what do you mean, what's going on? He says, listen, something big is going down. What is it? I said, you're listening. I said, you're asking me what's going on. You're listening on the phone. What do you mean, what's going on? Something big. What'd you hear? He said,
Greg, what year was this?
in 96, 97. Okay. So with that, I says, yeah, you're listening. I said, hey, how the fuck do I know what's going on? He says, well, there's something big going on. And you got to, I said, well, aren't you listening to his calls? He says, Greg, this guy's talking 6 different languages, slang, and straight.
They don't have interpreters all of a sudden?
Ain't that something? Ain't that something?
It's like my father used to tell me, speaking Italian. I said, Dad, you don't think they have people that understand Italian?
Exactly. Now this here is, I forgot what they called it, something, Polish, I don't know what it was, but anyway.
Probably speaking Farsi and whatever the hell they talk. Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, and the only thing they understood was this is going to be big. We got it, or something like that.
Well, I don't understand. I'm sure they taped the conversation. They had it all. So they couldn't get interpreters and find out whatever they were saying.
I don't know. I heard, like I said, what they explained to me, that it was a lot of slang that don't make sense to them. Even the interpreters wouldn't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is what was explained to me. I don't know.
But they did tell you something, they're getting out of the conversation that something big is going down.
Right. Okay. And then with that, you got to see what you got to find out. This is bad. I said, I did what I had to do, bro. He said, you were listening, So he said, well, go up. And I said, I'm not getting nothing over here, no promises, no nothing. I says, I'm going to back out myself, okay? So that's when now I get a letter by the head FBI guy, okay? He writes me a letter.
Who was he at that time? Do you remember?
Yeah, his name was Pat White.
Pat White.
Yeah, okay? And this guy writes me a letter, of how good I'm doing and what great information I'm giving them. He said, you got to do it for your country, for us. You got to do this. You got to continue. Okay, this was a real nice letter.
You have the letter anymore?
I'll tell you about that. So with that, nice. I get this letter. Nice. I put it away and everything. And so now continue again. I keep on going up there, and I see him like when my visits come. You know what I mean? I actually introduced my daughters to him to make him comfortable. Okay, and I was able to walk when they were leaving, walk around the thing.
Right.
So with that, I'm getting ready. They're saying that I'll be going soon. Being shipped out. All right. I was convicted, and waiting. They will get me a spot. Okay, and
they were designating you to a person. Right.
And they even told me where, but they say, oh, it's a good place. It's an 18-month, 3-year program. You see, you go in there and you get out.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, and with that, when I'm going to leave soon, okay? And he says, it's going down, okay?
And now this is Yousef telling you it's going down.
Yeah. I tell my lawyer, I said, listen, they're sending me out, but I'm going to let you know right now what he said, okay? He said it's going down, okay? So I says, bring that to them. He said, Greg, what's the sense if I bring it to them? They think he's bullshitting you, or you're bullshitting him. They just don't, believe it, I said, what do you mean they think I'm? Because no, they think that he's telling you a story.
Yeah, but if they came to you to tell you something big is going down because they're hearing that in the conversation, what made them reverse and now say it's BS?
Because they don't want to help me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. They don't want to help me. And my lawyers even tell me, he says, Greg, I know you're getting good information, okay? They're saying, they're bullshit, that they're bullshitting you. He says, but, there's something here maybe that they don't want to make you credible, okay? There's a lot of mob things going on. And I believe my mistake was, at that time, I told them about DeVecchio, okay?
You told who about DeVecchio?
I told my lawyer about DeVecchio, and I told them not in as far as it went with him, but I told him about my father had an agent. Okay, I says and that's when DeVecchio started coming out about the with Caproni. What I told you about the what was it, the Cosmo situation?
Oh, Cosmo, right.
Right.
Let me ask, when you told them about, did you tell them personally or did you tell the lawyer and the lawyer told them?
OPR.
OPR.
Okay.
How did they react when you told them about DeVecchio?
Well, they just took all the information down and everything like that. And Caproni actually was on my side because she knew about he knew about the weak link.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So they were now knowing that, that this could be over here and, he could be a witness or whatever. But we were thinking now that maybe, I'm thinking that later, that's what it was, that, they were worried about me, being credible and helping a lot of cases of the mob. You know what I mean?
So
they wanted to make me a liar. They wanted to make you go ahead.
Right. Just so you understand, so people understand, you were now giving them information about DeVecchio, that he was a bad agent, basically.
Right. I didn't have the name, but I just said that he has an agent, and they had brought up, but somehow it got the name.
They got the name DeVecchio.
Right.
And that they had to prove you to be not credible.
Right.
Because if you were providing information about the agent and you turned out to be credible, well, that's going to hurt the agent. And in turn, it could hurt a number of cases that he was involved in.
Right, exactly.
And which cases were they? Do you remember, Greg, that DeVecchio was involved in, along with your dad at that time?
Yeah, he was involved with I don't remember. I think he was involved with Let me think.
Michael Sessa?
He was one.
How about Vic Arena?
Yeah, all them cases.
All of those guys.
All of them. Matter of fact, one time there was like 17 mob guys that
Right.
walked out because of that situation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm bringing up Sessa and Arena because we're going to talk about that as we go along. Very important. But DeVecchio was the agent. I know DeVecchio testified
Right.
against Sessa and Arena.
Right.
He was one of the major witnesses.
Right. Well, see, this DeVecchio also, because of everything that we learned and everything like that, and they had the agent and reading this and reading that, we called him on my case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When he comes on my case, you'll never believe what he does. We call him to the witness stand. Okay? He gets up there. That is in front of the jurors and everything. My lawyer hit me. He says, Bing, he says, hey, we're in real good shape. He starts asking DeVecchio questions. Guess what DeVecchio says? I take the fifth.
In your case.
In my case. He wouldn't say nothing. Nothing at all. He took the fifth. That was amazing.
And the judge didn't order him to speak. He allowed him to take the fifth.
Take the fifth, yeah. Yeah, he took the fifth. And, and you're doing this in front of the jurors, and the jurors are still going to, FBI don't want to talk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, all that happened.
I want to be clear on one thing. Up until the point that you started mentioning that there was a bad agent, DeVecchio, they put it together, they would deem you to be credible. You were credible up to that point.
Yeah.
It was only until you started talking about the agent that all of a sudden you're not credible.
Right.
So they were trying to kill your credibility, not because of what you were giving them, the information you were giving them about Yousef and the terrorists.
Yeah.
They were trying to kill your credibility because you could expose the agent.
Well, that's what we believed.
That's what you believed at the time.
Yeah, that's what me and my lawyer were believing in,
Right.
something like that. Matter of fact, there was a time that we were sitting down together. I forgot this. There's so many things, There was a time we were sitting down, and about the passports that I just mentioned to you. All right, they wanted to meet my people outside and get these passports.
When you say the terrorists wanted to have some people meet your people outside to
Which
get
is
the
the
passports.
FBI, right.
Right, and it would have been the FBI.
Right.
Right.
They would have all got pinched.
Right.
Okay, and I think I don't remember the name, but I'm pretty sure one of them was one of them guys that crashed the
9/11, the
yeah,
plane.
Yeah, so they would have all got pinched for conspiracy. But what happens is this Pat White, he says, "Listen, we're not going to meet them." So my lawyer says, "What do you mean you're not going to meet them?" And that would have been real good for me. Now it would have been a witness and everything.
Right.
Okay? He said, "No, we're not going to meet them." So my lawyer said, "What do you mean you're not going to meet them?" He said, "You hear what I said? We're not going to meet them. We don't have to answer to you." Tells my lawyer. You got nasty with him. He said, "Well, wait a minute. My client here gave you information, okay, and he's talking about meeting these terrorists out there to make a deal." He said, "I'm going to tell you something right now. Mind your fucking business," he told my lawyer.
That's what White. Was it White or one of his reps? Or
No,
what?
no, it was him.
It was him himself.
Yeah, okay. And he shut up, my lawyer, okay, and that was amazing, And so that was the end of that. And where was I at now? So now we're just about, I'm going soon, okay? You told me that it's going down and all that kind of stuff.
And just to go back, when he said they supplied the bomb, the jet fuel, obviously you crash a plane into anything, it's going to explode.
Right. Okay. So with that, I end up leaving, okay? And, actually, Yousef left before me, okay? And don't know nothing about where he went, or it's all over, you know what I mean? And did all that shit for nothing, I'm saying to myself, So what happens is now I leave, all right? And they send me to Supermax, Colorado, okay? So I'm over there the first day or the second day that I'm there. Now, I got no property, no nothing, okay? One of the girls that worked there, they come wheeling a cart over, legal books.
Yeah, just so people know, the Supermax in Colorado is probably the most maximum security prison in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Fairly new. It's maybe 20, 25 years old,
Yeah,
right?
that was it. Yeah.
That's the highest security prison in the country.
Right. So with that, what happens now is this girl comes with this cart. It's got all kinds of books. And she says, Scarpa? So I says, yeah. So she says, I got the books you ordered. I just got there what books I ordered, okay? Yousef ordered them for me, okay? So now I'm figuring, I'm not thinking that.
You didn't know he was there.
Right, I didn't know. So now she's got books for me. I got nothing. I might as well get them and read them. Got something to do.
Sure.
Okay, so I get the books, I open it up, and what I find in there is Kite by Yousef. Okay, so my God, here we go again. Okay, so now I'm seeing the Kite that he's over on the other side, this, that, and everything like that. He says, "I'm going to send you over something." He says, you're going to be able to break this code. You just listen to me. He says, and you'll break the code, and you'll put the letters where they belong, and you'll be able to read it. And I'm not good at all that shit. So, hey, this guy's going to drive me fucking nuts now. You know what I mean? So, anyway, I did it. All right? I was able to do it. And he just said that, because he don't know that I did anything over there. You know what I'm saying? He's buried in Colorado like me now. All right? And he was just sending kites over, how you doing, and this and that. He says, we ended up in the same place, He says, but, things are still alive, remember what I told you and all that stuff, okay?
And that was in the Kites.
That was, right.
And you were disseminating this, you were putting it together.
Right. Okay, so I ended up getting my property and stuff. I'm over there. Now I see him in the rec cage, but I'm inside. I can see through the window. And he's in there. He knows where I'm at and everything, this guy, okay? They stopped the books from coming over. He told me that. He told me that outside. I'm having to see what letters he's telling me, and he's telling me, but don't worry, I'm going to get you. And what he does now is through the laundry. Cop-outs through the laundry, son. They were in the laundry that I ordered. Socks, this, that, and everything else. All right, but nothing of importance. Just bullshit.
Right.
Okay. Now it got to a point, long time with that there, and now it's like maybe 2 years before 9/11. Okay, and I get a kite from him. It says, "Listen, Greg," he says, "I'm going to be getting released." He says, "I found a loophole in my case." Okay. He says it's early September 2001. 2001. He says, I'll be getting, now I know that's when it is.
Right.
I'm trying to get a hold of the FBI. Nothing. So the only thing I could do is send that kite, give it to the BOP, get it to the FBI.
Whoever, yeah.
Right. Okay. I did that. Nothing.
Never heard from them.
Never heard from him. Nothing.
So you actually turned the kite over to the authorities at the prison? Was it the warden or gave it to a guard? Or?
Yeah, no, I gave it to a lieutenant.
Lieutenant?
Yeah. And, I said, you take care of that? He says, yeah, it's on the way. It's on its way there. And that was it, and I knew right away, as soon as as soon as the first plane hit it, I knew. Okay? And
so you believe, based upon all your relationship with this guy, that he was definitely one of the architects of 9/11.
Oh, he was the mastermind.
Yeah, and you, if you didn't know that later on, just based upon what your experience with him, you believe that 100%.
Oh yeah.
And it turns out he was
Right.
one of the masterminds.
Yeah.
Yes.
In other words, and let me tell you another thing that happened while we were together up there. I forgot. While we were up there together, on those calls, he found they were looking for Kahid Sheikh Mohammed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was able, through those calls and everything, they found out where he was. They went to go get him, and he was gone. Okay, that's what they said. He was gone. Okay, they didn't get him. Okay, so they were, I don't know what they were doing. Okay, but he was gone. And with that, he gets information, because it was his plan, Yousef's plan, the airplanes, okay, with the jet fuel going into the World Trade Center, okay? What happens is, when he sent that out, that to get that information, okay, to send the information out, he gets word back that Osama bin Laden okayed it. He was the boss. All the money and everything was coming from Osama bin Laden.
And did he tell you that?
No, he didn't tell me. But what happened was he told me that Kahid Sheikh Mohammed was going to see the main guy. He didn't want to.
He didn't mention his name.
Right? Okay, and he says he's going to see the main guy. All of a sudden, they start fucking partying. They were happy. It's done. It's done. Like they got the okay. Or they had to get an okay from Osama bin Laden, that they're going to do that. Okay, and he gave them the okay. He liked the plan. Okay, so like I said, the plan came from Yousef to his uncle. You know, they made the uncle now the mastermind, but it was Yousef.
Let me ask you, I got to refresh myself. Did Yousef ever get out? He said he was getting out. Did he get out?
No.
He never got out.
He never got out. That was just a thing to let me know he wasn't going to get out. That was to let me know that
So in other words, that was kind of a code to let you know that it was going down at that time.
Right.
That 9/11 was going down at
early
that time.
September 2001. He gave me the fucking date. Gave me the date.
And Greg, I got to, you would swear by this 1,000%.
Oh yeah.
I got to get it out. Did anybody ever offer you any money for this?
Nothing.
Did I ever offer you any money?
No.
Okay. No. You have no reason to say this.
No.
You got nothing coming. You're not asking for anything.
No.
You're not writing a book, are you?
No.
You're not making a movie.
No.
So you got nothing.
Not yet. Not yet. Who knows?
I mean, if they come to you with a movie,
Yeah.
by the time they make movies on our lives, we'll all be dead. Right?
Exactly. Maybe the book.
Who knows?
I don't know.
But you don't have anything in play
Nothing
at this
in play.
point.
No, the only thing that's going on right now is my father with a movie called By Any Means.
I know that, yeah.
Right, and that's only about him with the civil rights workers.
It's got nothing to do with you.
Nothing to do with me.
You're not,
other than I went on set and helped Mark Wahlberg out.
Okay.
You know, of how my father walks, talks, and acts.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But that's it.
That's it.
Nothing. It has nothing to do with this.
Nothing.
All right. Because I know on YouTube people start, I want to get all of that clear. You have no ulterior motive whatsoever in telling this story.
No, I never told nobody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because I want to try this together now. So they have a bad FBI agent. We all know he's bad. DeVecchio is a horrible human being.
Right.
He was working with your dad, giving your dad information on mob guys, and whatever your dad did with
Just you remember one thing, though, excuse me, they were friends.
They were friends, yeah.
They were working together. You know, like I said, I want to say the whole FBI, but it was these two.
It was DeVecchio.
Right.
But it's not right for any agent. Look, I got friends now that I know, not before, but I know them now afterwards, that are in the FBI, but they're not going to give me information they're not supposed to give me.
Right.
Whatever. FBI information is FBI information. They don't share it with people.
Right.
Especially with a guy in our life that can do damage with it.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So he was acting improperly, to say it nicely.
Yeah.
I want to say it nice because I don't like the guy. I know what he did. He was a corrupt agent. He was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Later charged with 4 murders who he went to trial for.
Right.
So, and then all of a sudden you're exposing a bad agent. That bad agent, we found out, was involved in a lot of cases with our former friends and associates.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's when they want to stop the investigation on the terrorists. You're seeing it that way, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're not credible.
Right.
Meanwhile, all the while, you have been credible.
Right. Yeah, I gave them information on, we used to do, we had a bypass gang.
Right.
We were even doing, we were burglarizing banks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there was one, I'm going to say just one, that he was there. He was prowling around making sure that I don't get pinched.
DeVecchio was there.
Yeah.
So he's basically protecting you because of his friendship with your father.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
He was doing things he wasn't supposed to do with guys that we were supposedly the bad guys, and he wasn't supposed to be helping us out.
Right.
And then when you start to give this information, they want to stop an investigation on the terrorists, and you're not credible anymore.
Right. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. And meanwhile, you're still supplying them with information even after that because, again, you believe this guy Yousef was credible, which we find out he is.
Yeah.
And the way I'm reading this, you could have stopped what happened on 9/11.
Yeah.
Do you believe that?
Oh, yeah.
If they would have followed it up, if they would have said, listen,
Yeah.
we don't care about anything else. These are terrorists. We know it. When this guy blew up the World Trade Center
Already, yeah.
we don't care. We're going to go all out on this.
Yeah. No, all they had to
But
do
they
is
stopped.
put the dots together.
Put it together. You gave them all the information.
Right.
You got nothing out of it from them or anything. You gave them the information. They just let it go.
Right.
All right, let's go back to say why. How many investigations, to your knowledge, was DeVecchio involved with, along with your father, of our guys, of our friends? Because I know one, I know two actually, and that's Michael Sessa and Vic Arena.
Right.
I know that DeVecchio testified in his case. I know for a fact that he had a horrible, corrupt prosecutor in Wiseman. Bad guy. Everybody knows it. I don't know how the guy is still doing what he's doing. He's a professor, I believe you understand. He was the same prosecutor on the BS Mueller investigation, the one after Trump. He's a bad guy. He was the same guy that framed all those guys from Enron.
Right.
The conviction was later overturned. The Supreme Court admonished him 9-0. They overturned the conviction because he fabricated information. He withheld information. Really bad guy.
Right.
So now you have an agent that was primary in convicting a lot of guys from our life.
Right.
These guys all got convicted. So it appears to me that the FBI didn't want any of these convictions maybe overturned because they had a bad agent involved.
Right.
And so they stopped the investigation against a terrorist.
Right.
That's how I'm reading it.
Yeah.
What later on, didn't some of these convictions get overturned from our guys? A bunch of them.
Yeah. Yeah. There was, they got overturned. There was, at one time, 17 guys walked out, I remember. I think it was Billy Catullo.
Billy Catullo, he did, yes.
Yeah.
And do you remember why most of these convictions were overturned?
Yeah, they were overturned because, matter of fact, they spoke to a couple of the jurors outside, and they asked them why, where you're getting like a not guilty here. He says, listen, if our FBI is like this, we're all in trouble. That's what they answered.
So it was basically because DeVecchio, who was primary in all of these convictions, they didn't believe him. All these prosecutions, they didn't believe him. Yeah. I'm sitting here, listen, we've heard a lot in our life. Yeah. But to believe that the FBI, Department of Justice, would allow terrorists to go away because they don't want mob guys' convictions overturned is unbelievable.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I want to get back to Michael Sessa for a minute because he's a friend, as we know. You know Michael.
Yeah.
He's done 34 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Yeah. He was framed. Wiseman and
DeVecchio. Had to
DeVecchio.
be, from what I heard. Somebody else.
He was framed. Well, information came out. He was framed for a murder of this guy, Coluccio.
Right.
And Wiseman, who was the main prosecutor, along with DeVecchio, who testified in the case, they're the ones that said that he was the murderer.
Right.
And I think your dad had something to do. We gave information on that also. I believe. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's what I think. Yeah. But anyway, DeVecchio was a primary witness.
Okay.
What we found out later, there was an investigation by the NYPD, and they said there were 12 to 15 guys that could have killed this guy, Coluccio, including your dad. Your dad was named on that. And Michael Sessa was never named.
Right.
In their investigation, they never named him.
Wow, that's something.
And all of a sudden, DeVecchio puts it on him. He gets convicted. He gets life without parole.
Yeah.
And Vic Arena, too. And I'm going to be honest with you. Vic and I had our disagreements at that point in time. So I'm not here to defend him because he's my best friend. He's not.
Right.
I knew Vic since I was a little kid. He used to be around my dad.
Yeah.
But he was framed.
Yeah.
For things that they didn't do.
Yeah.
And as I sit here, it's so hard to believe, as much as we didn't like the government back then, that our government would allow terrorists to do the damage that they did without following it up based upon good information that you gave him.
Yeah.
just because they don't want to blow the case on a couple of mob guys.
Right.
But that's what it seems happened here.
Yeah. Well, it even goes further because, see, I ended up, not to, it'd be another long story, but I ended up now being in the Supermax. Who I meet over there is the Oklahoma City bombers.
And what happened there?
And, I got information that was amazing, okay, that they had explosives hidden, ready to go again. That were explosives that they were going to use if they didn't get pinched.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, McVeigh and Nichols got pinched.
Right.
Okay, so the explosives stayed there. They weren't used. They were going to use it for
Another bombing.
Yeah, another bombing. Okay, and conversations and everything with this guy. He's telling me that his buddies out there. He says, I'm a little worried. I really don't want anything else to happen. He says, but they know where the stuff is, and that Waco anniversary is coming up, and they might go get it and do another bombing and stuff. And I told him, I said, listen, why don't you give me the explosive? He said, well, what do you mean give you the explosive? I said, listen, why don't you tell me where the explosives are? I'll tell you something. I'm sure that you probably need some money. All right. So, he ended up saying, yeah, of course, I'm having a hard time out there with my family and everything like that. I said, let me just show you something. So I showed him some papers about the IRS and everything with me on my case and stuff. And they're claiming that I owe them $11 million. Okay. So he's saying, wow, if you owe them $11 million, I can imagine what you made. I said, yeah, and my father passed away. He had all kinds of money. Okay. So I could send you something to help your family out, okay? I need this stuff, and which, I didn't have that money.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just...
Leading them on, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And he's a terrorist, and I didn't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like terrorists. They hurt innocent people, children. His thing on the Oklahoma City bombing, there was a daycare center there that all kids...
Right. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care who they kill.
Right. And with that, what was done and everything that was going on with that, it was really something. And I ended up getting the information where it was. But now I got to worry about, and what I did was I got in touch with this, this girl got in touch with me. She was working for Vic Arena, okay? And she wanted to know if, some things about that situation, and stuff like that. And I told her about the terrorist and the situation out there. She said, well, Greg, I know what they did to you over there. She says, I'm telling you right now, we can make a paper trail. I have connections in Congress. She says, and, give me the information. She says, and I said, I can't do that. Yeah. So she says, Greg, you gotta trust somebody. Trust me, she's telling me. I said,
Yeah.
So I says, I don't know, Angela. So she says, well, Greg, think about it. I'm going to have the Dr. Drescher's name was, I think he passed away. He has connections. She says that you don't have to go to the FBI. We could go to the military, okay? She said, what would you want for that information? As all I would want for that information is a letter to my judge, Judge Raji, that
You were helpful.
I did it, okay? So she says, okay. She says, I'm going to tell the military that, Dr. Drescher's, he had the military connection, and we're going to do a paper trail. Everything that goes on, everything that's said from now on, we'll make a paper trail, go right to Congress with it. Let them see everything, okay? And that's what we did, okay? And what happened was Congress heard about it. Della Hunt was one, and I forgot Roel Baca from California. He was the other congressman. They knew the whole story, okay? And so with that, they had all the information and everything like that. And now it was time they got in touch with the military, okay? The military came down. I says, Angela, I hope you know what you're doing. She said, Greg, I'm telling you, we got this. She says, as long as it's there, you know. So I said, all right. So I gave him the information where it was and all that stuff, you know. And it was a crawl space in his house, you know, his old house where he lived.
Was it there?
So what happens is the military goes there, and she went there too to see, but she wasn't trusting everybody 100%. She wanted to watch what's going on. She went there. All right. So I called her. She says, Greg, I'm here now. She said, I got some news for you. I said, what's that? She said, they came over to me. She says, the needles that they hooked up, they buried. She says, it's there. Okay. I says, really? She says, oh, yeah, you got this, Greg. You hit it this time. You got it. I says, oh, good, great. Okay. So now they made that a scam also.
What do you mean?
They made it a scam that I made it up. Somebody else got the information, and it wasn't Scarpa.
So, in other words, you gave the information. It was there.
Yes.
But now again, to protect whatever they were protecting, they said it didn't come from you.
Didn't come from me. It took me 7 years to prove it. Okay, and the lawyers and everything else, the paper trail, saying how it went down was when she told me the needles and everything went like that. Well, before that happened, the FBI, Congress got in touch with the FBI, which I didn't want. That's how it happened. The military was there, okay, and they were going to do the right thing. Now, once Congress, they didn't trust, I don't know what, they called the FBI that says, go there. They says, no, that's coming from that Scarpa. He's full of shit. This guy's he's a bullshitter. Okay, so they says, listen, we want you to go there because we know he's not bullshit. Okay, we got all the information. Okay, we want you to go there and check it out. Okay, so they go there. They see the military there. They chase the military. They said, no, this is not your jurisdiction. This is ours. Okay, you got to leave. So they left. Okay, and they went in and they found it. That's when they said it wasn't me that gave it to them. Okay, and it'll make the fight, forget about it. Congress was, they know it was me. All right, so we were, it was just a long fight, long drawn-out fight. I get Judge Coleman, and, he got all this information and everything like that. He knows that, it was me. Okay, and he tells them, listen to this, he tells them, he said, listen, he says, you got to give the guy something. We're not giving him nothing. So he said, why are you just acting like this with this guy?
This is the judge talking to the FBI.
Right, to the prosecutors.
Prosecutors.
Right.
You know who the prosecutor was?
Yeah, Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald, who was connected with Wiseman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that whole crew.
That whole crew, yeah.
So what happens is they says, where was they at now?
The judge was reprimanding.
Yeah, right. There you go. Thank you. The judge says, you got to give him something. He said, give him 3 years. He's getting out in 2035. That's his release date.
Mm-hmm.
Give him a few years. What's the difference? They said, no, we're not giving him nothing. He said, okay, since you want to talk to me and act like that with me, Judge Coleman said, he said, I'm giving the man 10 years off. Brings me out to 2025, okay? And I say to myself, that I could do, that's feasible, okay? So with that, they appeal it, the prosecutors.
So the judge knocked 10 years off,
right.
10 years off your sentence.
Right.
Based upon information that you provided
right.
on the Oklahoma bomber.
Exactly.
And the information was accurate.
Right.
And you got 10 years. That's documented.
Right.
100%.
Yes, 10 years off. So with that, they appealed to the higher court. Okay. And
the government did.
Right. And, I don't want to say nothing, but also in the higher court, there is the one who sentenced me, called it a scam with Yousef. It was Rena Raji, the judge.
Rena Raji, yeah.
She was one of them. But I don't know if she handled that, but she was in that.
Was it the Ninth Circuit? I mean the Second Circuit, wasn't it, in New York?
Second Circuit.
Second Circuit, yeah. Ninth Circuit is California, yeah.
But they, like I said, they appealed it, and the higher court went along with the prosecutors, knocked it down. They gave me the 10 years back. It was like a punch in the fucking gut. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They gave me the 10 years back. I says, wow, look at this. What a shame. Okay? So that was the end of that now. But then I get the break where, it's a sin to say that everybody suffered with that COVID, what was it called? COVID
Yeah, the
19?
yeah,
Whatever.
yeah, COVID.
COVID, okay? Everybody suffered with that. It was good for me. Because the rule came out in the prisons that because of this COVID, if your immune system is compromised in any way, you're getting released. You got to get out of here on a compassionate release, okay?
Right.
I had cancer, okay? So my immune system was,
Sure.
okay? And with that, I felt good. I said, yeah, this is going to work. I had a good, the judge was a real fair judge, Coleman. And when all the motions, everything was all done, I'm going back into my cell. And I call my girl every time I go before I'm in. And, I said, I'm going to lock in right now, baby. She goes, hold up, Greg. Right now I'm losing my breath. This and that. I said, what are you talking about? You all right? She said, no, you got to hold on. I said, no, I'm not holding on, baby. I got to get in. You're going to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
She says, Greg, and she just clicked off. I said, what's the matter with this girl? What she did was she got in touch with my lawyer. My lawyer gets on the phone, the three-way. She gets on and she goes, Greg. I says, yeah. She says, you'll be home by Monday. I said, what? I couldn't even talk.
Yeah.
You're going home Monday. I said, wow. You kidding me? And that's it.
That was it.
I got out sooner. I got out Saturday because they didn't want anything to happen, that a federal judge ordered me out by Monday. If there's some kind of killing, stabbing, whatever, they lock it down. Nobody
You
moves.
don't leave, right?
You know what I'm saying? They said, we want you out now. I said, okay, how am I going to go out now? I said, I got nobody to pick me up now. So now I'm arguing. In other words, we're all these years trying to get out, now I'm fighting to stay in for a little bit more. So,
Hey, Greg, they tell you to go out, go out. You can stand in the street until somebody picks you up.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But and so that's how you. Let me ask you: when the government opposed the judge's order to release you 10 years earlier, what did they put in the motion? Did they say you were not credible? Did they say they had information?
They
It wasn't
said,
you; it was from somebody else.
that's what they said, that it was somebody else.
And they probably couldn't name who somebody else was, right? It was confidential.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the BS that they said.
Everything with the what do you call that? Anything with the terrorists. What do they call the?
It was classified.
Yeah.
Yeah, documented terrorism. Yeah,
Right. And
and that's it.
crazy story. Then I got
And how much time did you do all together?
32 years straight.
To
Yeah, 12 of it in
Supermax.
the Supermax, and before the 12 in the Supermax, I did 4 lockdown in the MCC.
MCC.
Yeah, so it was like 16 lockdown.
Let me ask you. This is off the subject, but I spent time in MCC too. Epstein allegedly killed himself in MCC. You think he could have hung himself in that cell?
Oh no, definitely not.
And that was a
when-
cold question. We haven't discussed that, right?
Not at all.
I have said there's no way that man committed suicide.
There's no way. When you're in a situation like where they put him, there's nothing in there to hang yourself.
There's nothing. I always say you have to be a midget, 2 feet high, maybe you couldn't do it.
Nothing.
Impossible.
Yeah.
And the other thing,
And, excuse me, and they're circling all the time. They're looking in.
except for that night, the
Right.
cameras were broke, the guy fell asleep, everything happened, right? Wow. But it's unbelievable what this government will do. It really is.
Yeah.
But Greg, I have to say this, got to end with this. Michael Sessa, all these years, 34 years for a crime he didn't commit.
Yeah, that's a sin.
DeVecchio and Wiseman, we know for a fact, we read all the material, I have so much material on it, that Wiseman subordinated perjury with DeVecchio.
Yeah, let me just say one thing about
Yeah.
this with Coluccio,
Yeah.
okay? And you had said that my father might have had something to do with it.
No, well, they said it, not me. I
Okay.
don't know anything.
No,
It was-
what I want
yeah.
to say is that he knew who did it, and it was that Joe Brains. And they were
It
told
was.
that Joe Brains.
It was.
Not Michael Sessa, it was Joe Brains that killed that Coluccio.
Did your father tell you that?
Yeah, yeah.
So you knew that for a
I
fact.
knew that for a fact, yeah.
And Wiseman and DeVecchio just created this story about Michael Sessa.
I don't know what happened. I just knew that he got arrested for this, but they don't even listen. They paid me no mind, no matter what.
Well, Michael, from what I understand, he was so surprised when they locked him up. They didn't even lock him up. He heard about it, and he surrendered.
Yeah.
He said, I got nothing to do with this. He self-surrendered on that. Right. They didn't have to go after him.
Right.
But then he was shocked on what they did with him on trial. All right. Greg, I could talk to you for another 3-4 hours. We're going to do this again. We're going to talk about some other things, but we got to wrap it up right now.
Well, it's good with me. Hey, listen, thank you for having me. And it's been a pleasure to see you again.
Yes, yeah.
All these years.
So many years. Yeah. But remember, we just had our 50-year anniversary. I don't know how we look at it. We either celebrate it or...
So it was 75. See, I wasn't sure if it was 75
100%.
or 76. I said 75 at first, but then I'm reading all this. The books, they didn't open until 76, but they put that stuff on, but I knew it was 75.
Greg, some of these guys on YouTube said it's 76, just try to make me a liar, that's all. It was. What was the difference if it was 75 or 76?
On YouTube, they were telling me that you couldn't have been with Michael because you were 81. 77. They were saying all these things. I said, I can't wait to go see Michael over here and see. Let's kick it around, because
No, I know. If it wasn't for the fact that I got married that year and a whole bunch of things, I would have said maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
100% it was 75.
Right.
And if it was 76, what's the difference? So I'm 49 years instead of 50.
There you go. Yeah, but we're at the 50th anniversary.
50th anniversary. And, I had a discussion with Sammy, and he said everybody on the street was mad at you because you got pushed ahead of a lot of guys that were waiting 20 years to get made.
Yeah.
I said, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
I didn't say put me ahead of everybody, but, I'll be honest with you.
We were young?
Yeah, we were young, and out of respect for our fathers,
yeah.
When my father asked him, my father's doing 50 years, he got framed too, and he said, I want my son as quick as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they did, out of respect for our fathers, they put us up there.
Exactly.
Not that we didn't earn it. We had to do what we had to do, but they just pushed us ahead. So what do you want from me? I told
exactly.
I said, go tell the guy that did it. Don't get mad at me.
Yeah, it was Alley Boy, the big one.
Yeah.
He came to the club one day.
Yeah.
My father told me, he says, you like your son in there? He said, well, let me ask you something. We got something coming up. I'm not proud to say this or anything like that, but he says, we got something coming up. You'll be able to chop up the body. So my father answers for me.
Yeah.
My father says, are you kidding me? He says, he'll bite the face, he'll chew it, spit it out. I said, thanks, Dad. So.
I want to ask you one thing crazy, then we'll let you go. It's something I heard. Do you know for a fact if DeVecchio and your father were at the Italian-American Civil Rights Unity Day when Joey Columbo got shot?
No.
You don't know if they were there?
No, my father was there.
Your father was there?
Right, I was there.
I was there.
Okay.
Do you know if DeVecchio was there?
No, of what I learned was Villano, the first agent that he was Villano.
He was there?
Yeah.
Was he working with DeVecchio at all? Villano, do you know?
I don't know. I couldn't answer that for sure, but, I just know one thing, that they were friends, my father and DeVecchio. So,
I asked that for a reason, but we'll save that discussion for another time.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
All right, Greg.
Yeah. My pleasure. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Well, my friends, there you have it. I don't know how you feel about this, but I am extremely disturbed about this. I really am. And you know what? How do you stop an investigation of terrorists? One who blew up the World Trade Center, put a car bomb in there, 6 people killed, 1,000 more injured, millions of dollars worth of damage. He's in there with his co-defendants. And my friend, Greg Scarpa Jr., risks his life, basically, to get into their confidence. You can get killed in jail. There's more of them in there than there was him. He risked his life, gets in touch with the FBI, and he was no informant before that. His information, the FBI determined that they didn't want because it would hurt their cases with the mob guys because of their corrupt agent, Lynn DeVecchio, who was later charged with 4 murders. So they bury this guy. They bury the investigation, of known terrorists with ties to the mastermind of the 9/11 bombing of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. They let it go. Greg Scarpa set up a meeting with the terrorists outside where the FBI was going to go and pose as mobsters and meet with them, and they didn't want to pay $3,000. How much did they pay Greg Scarpa? For 20 years. A lot of money. But they didn't want the terrorists at the time. You determine if it could have been prevented. You got the terrorists. My friend was risking his life speaking to these terrorists and providing this information to the FBI. The FBI was visiting him. You heard him. They could have caught these guys. They could have stopped it. They could have gotten information out of them. They could have turned one of them. That's what they do. They didn't want to do it here because they didn't want to upset the mob convictions, and they didn't want to expose the illicit, evil. It's an evil relationship between Wiseman, who's evil, and DeVecchio. Nothing happened, people. They were never held accountable. You know what? If the Department of Justice doesn't look at this, so this never happens again. Never happens again. 3,000 people killed. 9/11 changed everything. How do you not pursue this? How do you not pursue it? You have a guy convicted of the bombing. You have somebody getting information, got into their confidence. You heard he had notes. They took pictures of it. They had the notes from the terrorist. Abandoned it to save their illicit mob convictions. When I tell you, and I've said it before, there's guys on the street that were better than these people in power, what more proof do you need? They abandoned that investigation not to disrupt the illicit mob convictions. And I want to tell you something. My friend, Michael Sessa, had done 34 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. DeVecchio perjured himself on the stand. Michael Sessa was allegedly killed one person, this person, Coluccio. But you know what? The NYPD investigated that murder. They named 12 people, including Greg Scarpa, that could have been involved in that murder as a suspect, and Michael Sessa was not named as one of the suspects. But DeVecchio lied on the stand. Wiseman suborned his perjury, buried it, wouldn't give information to the defendants like they were supposed to. And my friend is doing 34 years for a crime he didn't commit. Injustice, these people destroy lives for their own personal gain, and then nothing happens to them. He's no longer an FBI agent, but nothing happens to them. Wiseman was teaching law. The most corrupt agent, the most corrupt prosecutor that I know of, and I knew some. He's teaching law. That whole crew. Even Comey was involved in that back then. These guys have priors. They're not good people. We need to clean this up. We need to clean it up so no travesty, no horrendous act like 9/11 ever happens again because of corruption in our own government. Yeah, I'm angry, people. I'm really angry. My friend had to suffer over this. They lock him down in Supermax for 12 to 15 years so that he couldn't talk to anybody. They destroyed his life. He didn't have to stay in Supermax. That's abnormal. They don't keep people in there that long. They didn't want him to talk. They were too worried about their mob convictions that were overturned anyway when all of this came out. They punish a patriot. They punish him. I have part 2 coming. Another person who did a lot of time is going to corroborate a lot of what Greg Scarpa said, Greg Scarpa Jr. That's coming up next, so stay tuned. And there'll be a third part to this. Not giving this up. I want something to take place here. I mean it. We need to stop this. Kash Patel says he's cleaning up the FBI. My friend Dan Bongino, I'd love for him to see this because he's an honest guy. We got to get this stuff over with, people. between what's going on in Minnesota and California and the fraud. They're robbing taxpayers left and right, but now they're causing people to die. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. I'm 75 years old. I'm not holding back on this anymore. Horrible stuff. Please stay tuned. And this is going to continue. I want to hear your comments. Please comment. People, you know how I always leave it. Same way, never going to change. Be safe. Sometimes you got to worry about your own. Who's going to give you up? How many people crossed this border illegally and murdered people? How much money has been robbed from us, stolen, defrauded? We got to keep these people in check. For our own lives depend on it in some ways. A lot of them have blood on their hands. They certainly do here. Be safe. Be healthy. You know that I talk about it all the time. And I'm going to continue to talk about we only got one life on earth. For those of us that believe in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, we're going to have eternity in heaven with him. This is only a step along the way. Be safe, be healthy, and yes, God bless each and every one of you, your families, your friends, your neighborhood, your communities. And God bless the United States of America. See you next time.